Hey everyone, welcome back. In the previous video, we already have an array of quotes and we made a function that returns a random quote every time we call it. We test that function by calling it in the viewDidLoad method. The viewDidLoad method gets called whenever the view is loaded. Where is the view? The view is what we designed in the main.storyboard so far. So the view will have a background, image, and the label, and a button. So that's a lot of things we have done. In this video, I want to show you to make one step further. That is, we want to, every time we open the app, this label will show up a new quote. We don't want it to be always stay hungry, stay foolish. I always hope that I stay hungry, stay foolish. But for the sake of the app, we want to have a new quote. Okay? So how are we going to do that? It runs back to what is a view controller. If you remember, I tell you that view controller is what controls the view. And where is the view? The view is in the main.storyboard. Okay? So the view controller is what controls this view. It is the class, the code that you write to control this view. So, and we have a label on the view. There must be something, there must be some connection between this view to the view controller so that the view controller can talk to this view, to this label on the view. The view controller somehow can control this label on the view. Well, to do that in iOS, we will have something called an IB outlet. Let's create one IB outlet. To do that, I will click into the view controller and heading over to the assistant editor over here, I will click onto that and there we go. Remember that to check this one, automatic and view controller.swift, it has to be identical to this view controller.swift. I will close this. Okay. So we want to have this we want to have an IB outlet or a connection between that label to the view controller. The way I'm going to do this is to hold down the control key and drag it from the label to the view controller to directly to your code and release it. Okay. And then we have something to talk about here. The connection is, what is it? It is an outlet, right? An outlet is something that the controller can talk to the view. The object is view controller. The name what is the name of this label we want it to represent on the view in the view controller? I will name it quote label. Okay, that's simple. Well, you have to be very precise about the naming convention over here, because what is this label is about a quote, right? So we have quote. What is actually this outlet from? What is this control? It is a label. So I have described it, the content, and what is the UI? It is a label. The content of the label is the quote. And there we have it. The type is UI label. The storage is weak. Don't worry about the weak and strong, things like that. Just leave it there. And then we will press connect. There we go. We have something called an IB outlet. What IB stands for is interface builder. Okay, it is the main.storyboard. Okay. The @ IB outlet is just some it's kind of like a mark, a sign in your code, so that Xcode knows that this is the variable, because the quote label is actually a variable inside your view controller. So Xcode will connect this variable into the view. Okay, makes sense? So you in the view controller, you can directly manipulate this variable, the quote label, and that will happens into the view. Let's see how we can do it. Okay, so drag down to the view control to the view did load method. Instead of just printline the random quote, let's store it into a local variable by using a constant. Let quote equals random quote. I will call this. So quote is of type string. So now I have this random quote every time the view is loaded, the application opens. I want it to display into this quote label. Somehow I have to set the quote label to display this quote. Very simple. I will use a property inside of the quote label. I do that by typing quote label dot text. Okay. The minute I type dot text, each auto-completion shows me string question mark, meaning that it is a string optional, and the text is a property of the quote label. The description is follows. The text displayed by the label. That's simple. Okay, so I press enter and equals. What is it equals? What is the text of the label? Well, it is the quote. Okay, so that is that. Just that. Let's run the application to see what's happened. Okay, so it's not stay hungry, stay foolish anymore. It is, if you are not willing to risk the unusual, you will have to settle for the ordinary. Okay, so let's run it again to see if it's actually a new quote. There you go. If your ship doesn't come in, swim out to it. Oh, this should be swim, not swim. Let me fix it. Let me find it over here. Swim. I hope that I fix it when I ship out this tutorial to you. Okay, so don't worry about it. I will fix it in the code that I give it to you. Okay, so there we have it.